Today, I want to take a deep dive into the relationship between the actor and the agent. It's kind of a parable. Well, not really, but I think we're going to cover some things that you're going to find very enlightening on today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. How are you? I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. I'm a casting director with the McCorkle Group in New York, providing a podcast and video simulcast on YouTube all about the business of show. So if you are a student of acting, if you are a professional actor, if you're thinking about going into acting, this is the place for you. I'm delighted that you are here. This is that moment of the podcast where I get to say thank you for being here. Casting Actors Cast, the podcast, has over 33,000 downloads since we started, and I couldn't be more excited. So you can join in on the fun by going to the website castingactorscast.com. That's castingactorscast, all one word.com. And there you're going to find some additional information, previous podcast episodes, but also there's a place that you can fill out a form that says dive into the talent pool. Kind of fun, right? Yeah, so when you do that, you fill out that form, and that'll take you to another page that opens up, and it's an opportunity for you to download a free book on voiceover work. It's called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the Voiceover Workshop for Professional Actors. It's a 100-page PDF workbook on doing voiceovers. So I can't think of a better time than right now to go and check out whether or not doing voiceover work is something that you're interested in doing. If you're also doing some voiceover work or you're just getting started, then also I think this book is going to be very, very useful for you. It was written by yours truly, and hundreds and hundreds of people have been downloading this book, and I'm getting all kinds of nice thank yous for that. All you got to do is go to the website castingactorscast.com. So I'll look for you there. Also, if you want to email me with questions, if you have any questions about the business of show, if you have any individual personal questions about the business that I might be able to help, then please consider the email address castingactorscast, all one word, @gmail.com. Also, this is a great moment for me to say thank you to my friends at Actors Connection. Actors Connection continues to provide really amazing classes, workshops, intensives with people who are currently working in the industry. So taking classes from a casting director, from agents, from managers, from people in the business really is a great way for you to not only make good connections, but it's also a way that you can learn additional new cool skill sets. So that's my shout out to Actors Connection. I love working with Actors Connection. I teach at Actors Connection, and so I have nothing but great feelings about their work. And they're kind enough to put a link of the podcast, the podcast video, on their email blasts. That's all we have. We have a mutual association to promote each other's work. So that's my shout out to Actors Connection. Today's episode, The Actor and the Agent. First, I do want to tell you that there is a previous podcast video, podio, that I did called No Rep Action Step. And that is primarily for those of you who do not have an agent and kind of are thinking about getting an agent. How do you do that? So that's a much more of a how-to. And I implore you that if that's something you want to get more information on, do check out that podcast first, because I think it's going to give you a lot of how-to kinds of information about getting an agent. Today's a little bit different. We're calling The Actor and the Agent, and it's really about what to expect when you're working with an agent. So the assumption being that maybe you already have a relationship going on with an agent. Maybe you're freelancing with that agent, or maybe you're an exclusive actor to that particular agency. So that's what I want to talk about, because many, many times I hear from actors who have representation, and in fact, a couple of folks this week during a couple of the classes I've been teaching saying, I have an agent and I just don't think it's working out really well. What do I do? Well, that got me to thinking. Let's break it down. Let's talk a little bit about the expectations that you have for what an agent can do for you, and also taking a look from their perspective, what the agent's expectations are when they bring in a new talent into their office. So let's start off talking about something I hear all the time, and that is that working with an agent is like a marriage. Well, there are some things to be said about that are true. Yes, there are all kinds of interesting things that take place in the relationships that are similar to being married. Being a married man, I can tell you that there are some similarities, but there are also some very, very clear differences. I'm not going to talk about the obvious differences, right? Okay, so let's just talk about the similarities, because I just don't think it's a blanket statement, right? That, having an agent is like being married. It's really not. But there are some components. One is trust, that you have to have some level of trust with the person who's representing you. And the agent represents your talent. In return, when you book a job, when you get an acting job, you get paid. And a commission goes to that agent for the fact that they helped you get that job. So agents have access to all kinds of employment opportunities, whether they be theater, film, or television, or commercials, or voiceover work, or whatever area that particular agent is working in. So they get inside information about those opportunities. Then they reach out to their stable of talent, who they believe is going to benefit from this experience, from this opportunity. And that's how you get contacted to submit either an audition, or you are sent a script, or you are sent on a call. But, now since we're dealing with COVID, more like you're set up with an appointment on Zoom, perhaps. So that's what the agent does. But the word is trust. And having an understanding between what the agent wants from you and what you want from the agent is something that absolutely must be worked out. So there is definitely a level of trust. And the way that you get that trust is the second part of that marriage, which is communication. Knowing the best way to be able to communicate with the agent and the agent to communicate with you. That sounds really, really simple. But I can tell you there are so many times when the actor doesn't really figure out how the agent likes to communicate. And that's a mutual thing, right? I mean, you want to find out by asking the agent, what is the best way for me to talk to you? If I have a question or if there's something I want to talk about, the agent's got to be really clear about the best lines of communication for you. And it might vary. Sometimes it's email, just email me and I'll get back to you when I can. Sometimes it's let's talk on a regular basis, or let's pick up the phone and talk once every other week, or, whatever it is. At least you know what that is. You know what is mutually beneficial in terms of communication. So it's a marriage, yes, because there is trust. It's a marriage, yes, because there is communication. And finally, there is a mutual understanding about what you are to the agent and what the agent is to you. You are the talent. They are representing you. And so that brings me to the other part of being in this relationship. And that is whether you're freelancing with that agent or whether you are a signed client. So let's break that down just a little bit, because that sometimes gets a little bit confusing. But know that a freelance actor, an actor who is in a relationship with an agent but not on a exclusive basis, that's called freelancing. That means that you are free to have 2 or 3 or more agents representing your talent, depending upon what area you're working in. It's not unusual for an actor to have one particular agency that's representing them for film and television work, and then maybe there's another agency that's representing them for theater work, and maybe even a third agency representing them for commercial work. Or maybe there are a couple of agents that you're freelancing with for all areas. So there can be all kinds of variations in terms of that freelance. But know that, and this is important, I think, know that that agent is working with you, but you are not the first thought because you are freelancing with that agency. Now, the agent is under, an obligation. If they're going to be submitting you for a particular project and you're freelancing with that agency, they're obligated to call you or make contact with you to let you know that you've been submitted by me. If I'm playing the agent, you've been submitted by me, so that if another agent happens to call, there's no conflict, because you're the first person to be notified that you've been submitted for that particular part. You're not restricted in a freelance environment or exclusive. That has some benefits, but that also has some problems, right? Because you're not the agent's first thought, as I just mentioned. Because the agent has an obligation to those signed clients that they may be working with. So it might be that the freelance actors are a little bit lower on the list of call-outs for those particular projects. Now, that might not be great for you, but on the other hand, the game, if you want to call it a game, it's not. It's about career development. But the other thing is that maybe another agent is going to see that you're right or more right for this project. And because you're freelancing, they may be the ones to call and say, listen, I'd like to submit you for this project. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds about that, but the difference between a signed client and a freelance client is exactly that, is that there are some restrictions on that relationship because you're freelancing, and there certainly is some benefits to freelancing as well, just as being signed with that agent, being exclusive to that one agent, means that you only have to deal with one agency. So there's a blessing there to some degree. But that also, in my mind, that includes an additional level of trust. Many, many times agents want to date before getting married. Right? I mean, that makes sense, right? So you might freelance with an agent for a while, and if things seem to be going really well, if it looks like this is a relationship that's working and the lines of communication are clear, then you might become someone that's interested in being exclusive to that agent, and that agent might think, gosh, you know what? I'm thinking this client would be great to sign because they're doing well, and I want to really work more aggressively with and for them. So that's a very kind of normal progression. It's very rare in these days for an agent to want to sign you exclusively. Although it does happen, it's not something that I would want you to expect as you kind of do the dance with agents or people who are representing you. Something to think about. Let's talk a little more about those expectations that you have. One of the biggest expectations that most agents have with their clients is that they expect you to continue to be the CEO of your own company. Now, that means that you don't stop pursuing all of those opportunities out there for you as an actor, whether that be classes, whether that be working on your own projects, whether that be developing relationships outside of the relationship you have with your agent. So taking classes with casting directors and then letting your agent know that I had a really great few classes with this particular casting director. That just helps the communication between you and your agent, but it also shows your agent that you're not just sitting back waiting for the phone to ring. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that actors make is that they sign on the dotted line and then they go, okay, now I'm ready to audition. And guess what? Crickets. It doesn't happen. And suddenly you're going like, what? What's going on? And I don't want you to be that person. If you're clear with the agent when you meet them and as you start working with an agent that this is something that you are planning on doing, taking classes, doing workshops, wanting to get involved in some showcases, be a working actor so that that agent doesn't feel the additional pressure of that actor just waiting around for you to do something for them. That's a bad move. So that's one expectation. But you also have to feel confident that your goals and your aspirations and your thoughts about how you want your career to progress are heard. You need to know that your goals, your aspirations, your plans are heard by your agent. By the same token, you want that agent to be really clear with you about how they see you, how you might fit in to the film and television world, or the theater world, or the commercial voiceover world, whatever the world is. You want to make sure that you both are on the exact same page when it comes to expectations for each other. And I know that's hard sometimes, right? Because even though you kind of hire the agent, although I wouldn't want you to sort of dangle that kind of carrot, I've hired you. I would much rather have you be in a mutually respectful relationship with each other, that you're both working together. They're there to make money. You are there to also be a working actor, to pursue your art and your craft. And that's why the two can be really, really in excellent company with each other when it's going well. When it's not going well, it's not great. One of the things that I think it's important to be aware of is that you must feel that the agent has your best interest in mind. Sure, they're there to make money. They have many, many clients. They're in the business. They're trying to get as many job opportunities for their clients as they can. There's definitely a hustling kind of mentality. And I'm not meaning that in a deprecating, good word, way. I am meaning that in a way that's just how it works. There's a limited amount of jobs. There's a ton of clients looking for opportunities. And so the agent happens to be in the middle of that, trying to negotiate those waters. And so if there is clear understanding about how you're communicating with each other, then you're going to be in great shape. So there are some issues to cover before we complete this actor and the agent podcast video. And that is some of the issues that have happened. If the question becomes, I'm not sure how to talk to my agent and I haven't heard from them for a while and I don't want to bother them, well, that just means that you do not feel you are a peer in this relationship and you must eliminate that thought process. If you're working with an agent, whether it's freelance or your assigned client, and you're not feeling like your calls are being answered, or you're not feeling like they're responding to what your requests are, then that is a time that you need to reevaluate the relationship. And I know it's hard because you don't want to drop the agent. On the other hand, you're hoping that the agent doesn't drop you. It could be really an ugly and muddy situation. So clarity is my wish for you as far as the relationship is concerned. The other question is, should you be told if the agent is submitting you for projects? Now, sometimes agents just don't have the time to let you know that there have been 5 projects this week that I've submitted you for, and then giving you all that information. They might not feel like it's helpful to them because it's taking up so much time when they need to get out as many clients into those projects as they can. But understand that if they say that to you, if they say, I can't let you know every time I'm sending you out for something, but when we play catch up once every week, or when we talk next, or I'll email you when things are a little quieter, then that's the understanding. Then go with that. That's fine. That's kind of normal. But then finally, when is it a good time to cut the ties? This is a tough one. It's a very personal decision. It really depends on whether your needs are being met. And if those needs are not unusual, if it's kind of logical that you should be hearing from the agent a little more often. And that's only because those lines of communication haven't been clear. If you feel like you've given a clear opportunity, you've had a few more meetings about this, you've expressed your concerns, and nothing changes, then maybe it's time to move on. Because you can't afford to waste time and job opportunities that are out there by speculating about your relationship. So I know when all is said and done, the parable is about communication. The parable is about mutual understanding and respect. When that happens, it can be a fantastic relationship. And then, gosh, we should do another whole podcast on the relationship between the casting director and the agent, right? Because that has all kinds of other implications that might be interesting to know about. So maybe we'll do that on a future podcast. In the meantime, hang in there. Think about what kind of a relationship do you want with an agent, and then base that on what you now know is going to be really useful when that opportunity comes up, or whether you're in it now and you need to kind of think it through a little bit more. Please tell me if this has been helpful for you. I would really like some feedback, because I'd like to continue on this conversation. If you like it, if you want it, please let me know by going to castingactorscast.com, fill out that form, and give me a comment. Please give me a thumbs up, a like, all of those things if this has been at all helpful to you. I remain Jeffrey Dreisbach, Casting Director with McCorkle Casting, and I will talk to you and see you next time on Casting Actors Cast.
Casting Actors Cast is made possible with your support just by listening. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.